This was his fifth, no sixth, public failure. At 18 years old, he still couldn't do what wolf pups managed at 13. Pathetic, someone muttered from the crowd. Silver's hands trembled against the sacred ground. Around him, the other Omegas had already completed their transformations. Beautiful wolves with sleek coats and graceful movements. They'd shifted back now, standing in their human forms with pride radiating from every pore. But Silver remained exactly as he'd always been. Fully human. Fully broken. "Stand up," Elder Mara's voice cut through the whispers like a blade. Silver forced himself to his feet, blood trickling down his shins. He didn't dare look at the crowd. He especially didn't dare look at Alpha Kale, who stood at the front with his arms crossed, face carved from stone. Kale had become pack leader only 3 months ago, after his father's sudden death. He was everything an alpha should be, powerful, commanding, devastatingly handsome with dark hair and eyes like molten amber. At 25, he'd already earned the respect of every wolf in their territory. And he wanted nothing to do with Silver. "This Omega has failed the shifting trial for the 6th time," Elder Mara announced, her voice echoing across the clearing. "According to pack law, he will be given one final chance at the next full moon. Should he fail again?" She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Everyone knew what happened to wolves who couldn't shift. They were sent away. Given to lesser packs who needed laborers, servants, bodies to fill space. Omegas were prized for their beauty and fertility, but only if they could complete the bond. Only if they could shift. A defective Omega had no value at all. Silver felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on him. Judging. Pitying. Some even looked relieved, as if his failure somehow elevated their own worth. "Dismissed," Elder Mara said coldly. The crowd dispersed, but the whispers followed Silver like ghosts as he limped toward the pack house. His roommate Finn caught up with him halfway there. "Silver, wait." "Don't," Silver said quietly. "Just, don't." Finn hesitated, his kind face creased with worry. He was a beta, strong and capable, and he'd been Silver's only real friend since childhood. "You can't give up. Maybe if you tried the meditation technique I showed you." "I've tried everything, Finn." Silver stopped walking, exhaustion settling into his bones. "Meditation. Fasting. Prayer. Those herbs the healer gave me made me sick for a week and I still couldn't shift. I'm broken. Everyone knows it." "You're not broken," Finn insisted, but even he didn't sound convinced anymore. Silver gave him a sad smile. "Go. I know you have patrol duty." Finn squeezed his shoulder once before jogging away, leaving Silver alone in the growing darkness. The pack house loomed ahead, a massive structure built from stone and timber, housing over 300 wolves. Silver's room was in the Omega Wing, a small space he shared with 2 others who barely spoke to him anymore. He climbed the stairs slowly, his legs aching. The hallway was empty, thank God. He couldn't handle any more pitying looks tonight. But as he passed the Alpha's study, he heard voices. "Can't keep him here indefinitely, Kale." That was Elder Mara. "Pack law says all Omegas are protected." Kale's voice was hard, unyielding. "Pack law was written when Omegas could shift," another elder argued. "The boy is 18 and still human. He's a liability. A weakness." Silver's stomach twisted. He should walk away. He shouldn't be listening to this. But his feet wouldn't move. "What would you have me do?" Kale asked. "Exile him? Send him to the Crescent Pack to scrub floors for the rest of his life. Better that than have him here, reminding everyone that our bloodlines are weakening," Elder Mara said sharply. "Your father understood this, Kale. He would have sent the boy away years ago if your mother hadn't intervened." Silence fell. Silver's mother had been Kale's mother's closest friend. She died giving birth to him, and Luna Catherine had promised to protect him. But Luna Catherine had passed 2 years ago, and now there was no one left to shield him from the truth. He was unwanted. A burden. A mistake. "I'll consider it," Kale said finally, his voice empty of emotion. Silver didn't wait to hear more. He stumbled back to his room, barely making it inside before his legs gave out. He sank onto his narrow bed, pressing his palms against his eyes. He wouldn't cry. He'd stopped crying years ago, after the 3rd failed trial when he'd realized tears changed nothing. But God, it hurt. It hurt to be so fundamentally defective that even his own pack couldn't stand to look at him. It hurt to see Kale, strong, perfect Kale, watch his failures with nothing but cold indifference. Silver had harbored a foolish crush on the Alpha since they were teenagers. Back then Kale had been kinder or at least less distant. He'd even smiled at Silver once, after Silver had helped bandage his hand when he'd cut it during training. But that was before Kale's father had started grooming him for leadership. Before Kale had learned that alphas couldn't afford to show weakness. And Silver was nothing if not a weakness. He lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The next full moon was in 2 weeks. 14 days to somehow accomplish what he'd failed to do for 5 years. 14 days before he was exiled. He closed his eyes, willing sleep to come. But instead, he felt that familiar stirring deep in his chest. Something wild and restless that didn't match the rest of his broken body. Sometimes late at night he swore he could feel it. A presence. A power that didn't belong to him, something vast and ancient that pressed against his ribs like a caged animal. But every time he reached for it during the trials, it slipped away like water through his fingers. "Please," he whispered into the darkness. "Please, just let me be normal." The presence stirred, then fell silent. Silver drifted into uneasy sleep, unaware that in 2 weeks' time, normal would be the last thing he'd ever be again. And unaware that in the Alpha study, Kale stood alone at the window, staring out at the Omega wing with an expression that wasn't quite as indifferent as he pretended. Chapter 2, The Attack. The alarm howls tore through the night 11 days before the full moon. Silver jerked awake, his heart hammering against his ribs. Around him, his roommates scrambled out of bed, already shifting mid-movement. Within seconds, 2 sleek wolves burst through the window, racing toward the sound of battle. Silver stumbled to the glass, pressing his hands against the cold pane. The forest beyond the pack house was chaos. Massive wolves poured from the tree line, at least 60 of them, maybe more. Their fur was matted and dark, their eyes feral with bloodlust. Rogues. But not the usual desperate loners who sometimes tested their borders. These were organized, coordinated. An army. Silver watched in horror as the pack's warriors met them head-on. The clash of bodies echoed through the night, snarls, screams, the sickening crunch of bone against bone. Blood sprayed across moonlit grass. He had to do something. Had to help. But what could he do? He couldn't shift. Couldn't fight. He'd only get in the way, become another body for the warriors to protect while they were already outnumbered. His hands clenched into fists against the window. Useless. He was so goddamn useless. Then he saw Kale. The Alpha was magnificent in his wolf form, larger than any other, with midnight black fur and those same amber eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. He moved like liquid death, tearing through rogues with brutal efficiency. But there were too many. For every rogue Kale took down, 2 more appeared. The pack was being pushed back, overwhelmed by sheer numbers. And then Silver saw him. The rogue Alpha. He was enormous, nearly twice the size of Kale, with scarred gray fur and teeth like daggers. He prowled through the battle with deliberate menace, letting his subordinates do the work of wearing down the defenders. Waiting for his moment. Silver's stomach dropped. No. No. The rogue Alpha charged. Kale sensed him too late. He turned just as the massive wolf slammed into him, sending them both tumbling across the blood-soaked ground. Kale recovered quickly, lunging for the rogue's throat, but the older wolf was experienced, vicious. He caught Kale's shoulder in his jaws and wrenched, tearing flesh. Kale yelped, a sound Silver had never heard him make, and stumbled. The rogue Alpha pressed his advantage, driving Kale down until the young Alpha's back hit the earth. Massive paws pinned him. Claws dug into his chest. The rogue Alpha's jaws opened wide, aiming for Kale's throat. Silver's world narrowed to that single moment. Kale was going to die. The Alpha who'd been cold to him, who'd stood by silently during every humiliation, who'd probably been planning to exile him. He was going to die. And something inside Silver screamed in denial. Not him. Not Kale. Not like this. The presence that had haunted him for years suddenly surged to the surface, no longer slipping away. It rose like a tidal wave, crashing through every barrier that had held it back. Silver's vision went white. Pain exploded through his body, but not the pain of failure he was used to. This was transformation. Raw. Violent. Unstoppable. His bones didn't just crack, they shattered and reformed. His skin didn't just stretch. It tore away, making room for something infinitely larger. Power poured into him like molten metal filling a mold, burning away everything weak, everything human, everything small. He tried to scream, but the sound that emerged wasn't human. It was a roar that shook the earth itself. The window exploded outward as Silver's body burst through it, no longer fitting in the small room. He hit the ground running, but not on 2 legs. On 4. The world looked different. Sharper. Every scent was a story: blood, fear, rage, death. Every sound was magnified. Every movement tracked by predator instincts that were suddenly, terrifyingly natural. But he wasn't a wolf. Silver caught a glimpse of his reflection in a shattered window as he raced past, something massive and otherworldly. His fur was silver-black, shimmering like starlight. Curved horns spiraled from his skull. His eyes burned with an inner fire that cast shadows across the ground. He looked like something from ancient legends. Something that should have been extinct. The battlefield fell silent as he charged through it. Rogues scattered. Pack wolves stopped mid-fight, staring. Silver had eyes only for the rogue alpha, who still had Kale pinned, jaw descending toward exposed throat. Silver hit him like a meteor. The impact sent the rogue alpha flying 20 feet, tumbling across the ground. Silver landed between him and Kale, standing over the injured alpha protectively. Mine, something primal growled in his chest. Mine to protect. The rogue alpha scrambled to his feet, lips peeling back from bloody teeth. He was large, experienced, powerful. He lasted 6 seconds. Silver moved with speed that shouldn't have been possible for something his size. He was on the rogue before the older wolf could even snarl, jaws closing around his throat. One violent shake, the snap of vertebrae echoed across the silent battlefield. The rogue alpha dropped, lifeless. Silver released him, breathing hard. Blood dripped from his muzzle, hot and copper-sweet. The remaining rogues took one look at him and ran. Even the pack's own warriors backed away slowly, eyes wide with something that looked dangerously close to fear. Silver turned to check on Kale, but the movement made the world tilt. The power that had filled him so completely was draining away fast, leaving nothing but exhaustion in its wake. His legs buckled. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Kale shifting back to human form, amber eyes locked on Silver's massive frame with an expression of absolute shock. And something else. Something that might have been recognition. Silver's vision blurred, his body already beginning the painful process of shifting back. He felt himself shrinking, bones rearranging, fur receding. The last conscious thought he had was bitter and edged with hysteria. Well, at least I can shift now. Then everything went black. When awareness began to return, Silver felt warmth first. Strong arms wrapped around him. The scent of pine and smoke, Kale's scent, surrounding him completely. He was being carried. Voices swirled around him, urgent and frightened. What is he? The prophecy. Guardian beast. Impossible, they've been gone for centuries. And through it all, Kale's voice, rough and commanding, move. Get the healer. Now. Silver wanted to open his eyes to see what was happening, but his body wouldn't cooperate. The exhaustion was too deep, pulling him under like quicksand. The last thing he registered was being laid on something soft, and Kale's hand brushing hair back from his forehead with unexpected gentleness. What are you? Kale whispered. Silver couldn't answer. He was already falling back into darkness, where ancient dreams waited to show him exactly what he'd always been. Chapter 3, The Guardian Beast. Silver woke to the sound of whispers and the weight of 100 eyes. His body ached everywhere. Muscles he didn't know he had screamed in protest as he tried to move. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, carved wood instead of the plain plaster of his Omega quarters. Where was he? He turned his head slowly and froze. He was in the Alpha's personal chambers. In Kale's bed. The room was massive, decorated with furs and weapons that had been passed down through generations of pack leaders. Moonlight streamed through tall windows, casting silver shadows across dark wooden floors. And surrounding the bed, filling every available space in the room, were wolves. Pack members knelt on the floor, warriors, omegas, betas, even some of the elders. Their heads were bowed, postures submissive in a way Silver had never seen directed at anyone except the Alpha during formal ceremonies. But they weren't looking at Kale. They were looking at him. What? Silver's voice came out as a croak. His throat felt raw, burned from the inside out. Don't try to speak yet. Kale's voice came from beside the bed. Silver's gaze snapped to him. The Alpha sat in a chair pulled close to the mattress, still wearing torn, blood-stained clothes from the battle. Bandages wrapped around his shoulder and chest where the rogue Alpha had torn into him. But he was alive. Kale was alive. Relief flooded through Silver so intensely it made him dizzy. The healer said you need to rest, Kale continued, his amber eyes fixed on Silver with an intensity that made Silver's skin prickle. You've been unconscious for 2 days. 2 days? The rogues? Silver started. Gone. The survivors fled after you. Kale paused, seeming to struggle for words. After you killed their Alpha. The memory came rushing back. The transformation, the power, the violence. Silver's hands trembled beneath the furs. He'd killed someone. Ripped out a wolf's throat without hesitation. What was he? As if reading his thoughts, Elder Mara stepped forward from the crowd. Her expression was carefully neutral, but Silver caught the fear flickering in her eyes. Silver, she said formally, do you know what you are? I'm an Omega? It came out as a question. Mara's lips thinned. You are the first guardian beast to awaken in over 300 years. The room seemed to hold its breath. Guardian beast, Silver repeated slowly. The words felt strange on his tongue, but something deep inside him resonated with them. Recognized them. Ancient bloodlines, another elder spoke up, Elder Thomas, who'd always been kinder than Mara. Protectors that emerged only when a pack faced extinction. They were said to be Omegas blessed by the moon goddess herself, given the power to defend their people against impossible odds. They were also said to be legend, Mara cut in sharply. Stories to comfort children. No one has seen a guardian beast since the Great War. And yet, we all saw what happened on that battlefield, Thomas countered. We saw the form he took. The power. That was no ordinary shift, Mara. Silver's head spun. This couldn't be real. He was defective. Broken. Not some legendary protector. Why now? He whispered. Why couldn't I shift before? The silence that fell was damning. Kale's hands clenched on the arms of his chair, knuckles going white. When he spoke, his voice was rough with barely controlled anger, but not directed at Silver. Tell him, he commanded. Mara's jaw tightened. Alpha, this is not the time. Tell him. The elder's shoulders sagged slightly. She looked at Silver and for the first time he saw something like guilt in her ancient eyes. Your power was suppressed, she said quietly. From the time you were a child. Your mother knew what you were. She was a guardian's daughter herself, though the bloodline had been dormant for generations. When you were born and she realized you carried the active gene. Mara paused, gathering herself. She knew what would happen. A guardian beast does not bow to an alpha. They protect the pack by instinct, yes, but they answer to no one. They cannot be controlled, cannot be commanded. They are a threat, Kale finished, his voice hollow. To the alpha's power. Silver's world tilted. You knew. No, Kale said sharply, meeting his eyes. I swear to you I didn't know. But my father did. He was the one who ordered the suppression. The herbs the healers had given him over the years. The special teas that were supposed to help him shift. The meditation techniques designed to open his connection to his wolf. They'd all been lies. Poisons and blocks keeping him weak. Keeping him human. Keeping him powerless. He was afraid, Elder Thomas said gently. Your mother died in childbirth, Silver. There was no one to protect you except Luna Catherine, and even she couldn't openly defy the Alpha's orders. So she convinced him to suppress your abilities rather than take more permanent measures. Kill him. They'd considered killing him. Silver's stomach churned. He'd spent 18 years believing he was broken, that something was fundamentally wrong with him. And all along they'd been the ones breaking him. The pack demands to know what happens now, Mara said, her voice taking on a formal tone. By ancient law, a guardian beast has the right to challenge for pack leadership. The power belongs to them, not to inherited bloodlines. Every eye in the room turned to Silver. He could feel it, that vast presence inside him no longer caged. It purred with satisfaction, finally free after years of imprisonment. The power was his. He could take control of the pack if he wanted. One word and Kale would have to step down. Silver looked at the Alpha, expecting to see fear or anger or resentment. Instead, Kale's gaze held something far more complicated. Why yes, the kind of wonder someone might feel witnessing something impossible made real. But there was also heat there. A hunger that had nothing to do with power and everything to do with the way Kale's eyes tracked the line of Silver's throat, the curve of his jaw. Recognition, as if Kale was seeing him, really seeing him, for the first time. And beneath it all, confusion. As if Kale couldn't quite reconcile this powerful being with the Omega he'd kept at arm's length for years. Something pulled tight between them, invisible but undeniable. Silver felt it in his chest, a connection that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had always been there, just buried under suppression and denial. I don't want to be Alpha, Silver said quietly. Shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mara's eyes narrowed. You may not have a choice. The pack has already begun to see you as their true protector. Then they can see me as protector without me taking Kale's position, Silver interrupted, surprised by the strength in his own voice. I saved the pack because it was the right thing to do. Because Kale was going to die. Not because I wanted power. He pushed himself up to sitting, ignoring the way his muscles protested. The crowd immediately bowed lower, an instinctive submission that made his skin crawl. Stop that, he said. Stop kneeling. I'm not your alpha. But you are our guardian, someone said from the back. Finn, his friend, his eyes shining with something like pride. Silver's throat tightened. Then let me guard you. But I won't rule you. Kale stood abruptly, drawing everyone's attention. The pack meeting is over. Everyone out. Now. The authority in his voice was absolute. Despite their newfound reverence for Silver, the pack members still responded to their alpha. They filed out slowly, many casting uncertain glances between Kale and Silver. Elder Mara was the last to leave, pausing at the door. This isn't over, Alpha. The pack will expect answers. Expect direction. And they'll get it, Kale said firmly. Tomorrow. Tonight he rests. When the door finally closed, leaving them alone, the silence was deafening. Kale turned to face Silver, and the expression on his face was raw. Unguarded in a way Silver had never seen. You saved my life, Kale said quietly. You would have done the same. Would I? Kale's laugh was bitter. I stood by for years while they broke you, Silver. While my father poisoned you and convinced everyone you were defective. I watched you fail those trials, watched you suffer, and I did nothing. You didn't know. I should have. Kale moved closer, stopping at the edge of the bed. I should have questioned it. Should have asked why an Omega born of strong bloodlines couldn't shift. Should have protected you. His hand lifted, hesitant, before settling gently on Silver's shoulder. The touch sent electricity racing across Silver's skin. I'm sorry, Kale whispered. For all of it. And I know an apology doesn't fix what was done to you, but... Silver caught Kale's hand before he could pull away. Their eyes met, and the connection between them flared brighter. What is this? Silver breathed. This feeling between us. Is it just because I'm a guardian? Some kind of power dynamic. Kale's thumb brushed across Silver's knuckles, the gesture achingly tender. I don't know. But I felt it the moment you shifted. Like something in me recognized something in you. You're the alpha, Silver said, but his grip on Kale's hand didn't loosen. I'm just... Don't. Kale's voice turned fierce. Don't call yourself, just, anything. You're extraordinary, Silver. You always were. I was just too blind to see it. The air between them felt charged, heavy with possibility and danger in equal measure. But before either of them could move closer, a commotion erupted in the hallway outside. Raised voices, urgent footsteps. Finn burst through the door without knocking, his face pale. Alpha. Guardian. He bowed quickly. We have a problem. Scouts just reported movement on the eastern border. Multiple packs. They're not attacking. Then what are they doing? Kale demanded. Finn swallowed hard. They're gathering. Word has spread about the Guardian Beast awakening. Every alpha within 100 miles is coming to see for themselves. Kale's hand tightened on Silver's. How many? At least 6 packs so far. Maybe more by morning. Silver's blood ran cold. He could see the fear in Finn's eyes, the same fear he'd seen in the elders. They weren't coming to pay respects. They were coming because a power like his, uncontrolled and unprecedented, was a threat to every established alpha in the region. They're going to demand I be handed over, Silver said quietly. Aren't they? Kale's eyes blazed with sudden fire. Let them demand. They'll have to go through me first. Chapter 4, The Truth Buried. The council chamber had never felt so suffocating. Silver stood beside Kale at the head of the long table, acutely aware of every eye on him. The pack's senior members filled the room, elders, warriors, advisors, all waiting to hear how their alpha would handle the crisis gathering at their borders. Through the tall windows, Silver could see distant campfires dotting the tree line. 6 packs had become 8 overnight. More would come. They want a meeting, Elder Mara announced, her voice cutting through the tense silence. The visiting alphas demand to speak with both our alpha and the Guardian. They're proposing a gathering at dawn, neutral ground. It's a trap, one of the warriors growled. 8 alphas against 1? They'll try to take him by force. Or they'll demand we hand him over voluntarily, another elder added. For the safety and balance of all packs in the region. Silver's jaw tightened. There it was, the real reason they'd come. A guardian beast couldn't be controlled, couldn't be commanded. To alphas built on hierarchy and dominance, he was a threat that needed to be eliminated or contained. We fight, Kale said flatly. If they try to take Silver, we go to war. Against 8 packs? Mara's voice rose. Kale, be reasonable. We barely survived the rogue attack, and that was with the Guardian's help. We can't. I said no. Kale's alpha command rolled through the room, making several wolves flinch. Silver is under my protection. That's final. Warmth bloomed in Silver's chest despite everything. 3 days ago, Kale had been ready to exile him. Now he was willing to risk the entire pack for him. But that was exactly the problem. Maybe they're right, Silver said quietly. Every head swiveled toward him. Silver, Kale started. No, listen. Silver forced himself to meet the eyes of the council members. I'm one person. One Omega. Is my life really worth a war that could destroy this pack? Yes, Kale said immediately, no hesitation. The certainty in his voice made Silver's throat tight. But he couldn't let emotion cloud reality. You can't make that choice based on. Silver hesitated, too aware of their audience. Based on personal feelings. Something flashed in Kale's eyes, hurt maybe or frustration. But before he could respond, Elder Thomas cleared his throat. Perhaps, the old man said carefully, we should discuss why the Guardian's power was suppressed in the first place. The visiting alphas will certainly ask questions. We need to know the full truth ourselves. Mara stiffened. Thomas? No more secrets, Kale cut her off, his voice hard. My father made decisions that nearly cost us everything. I want to know exactly what he did and why. A heavy silence fell. Finally, Mara stood, moving to an ancient chest in the corner of the chamber. She withdrew a leather journal, its pages yellowed with age, and placed it on the table. Your father kept records, she said quietly. Of everything. Kale reached for the journal, but Mara's hand stopped him. You should know, Alpha, that what's in here will change how you see him. How you see everything about your family's leadership. Tell me, Kale demanded. Mara opened the journal, her fingers trembling slightly. When Silver was born, your father sensed what he was immediately. Guardian bloodlines carry a distinct scent, even in infants. He knew that if the child's power awakened, it could supersede his own authority. So he poisoned a baby, Silver said bitterly. Not at first, Thomas interjected gently. At first he wanted to kill you. Quietly. An accident during birth, he'd claim. Your mother had already died, no one would question it. Silver felt like he'd been punched. His own alpha had wanted him dead before he'd even taken his first breath. Luna Catherine stopped him, Mara continued. She threatened to leave him to expose what he'd done to the pack. She was beloved and he couldn't risk losing her support. So they compromised. Compromise, Kale repeated, the word dripping with disgust. The suppression began immediately. Herbs mixed into his milk as an infant. Later, stronger compounds. The healers were told it was to help him shift, but in reality, it did the opposite. Locked his power away so deeply that even Silver himself couldn't feel it. Mara turned a page, revealing detailed notes in his father's handwriting. Silver felt sick seeing the clinical way his entire childhood had been documented and controlled. Your father believed he was protecting the pack, Thomas said. In his mind, an uncontrollable guardian was more dangerous than helpful. Better to keep the power dormant than risk it challenging the natural order. The natural order? Silver laughed hollowly. You mean his power? Yes, Mara admitted. He believed strongly in alpha bloodlines, in the hierarchy that had kept packs stable for generations. A guardian upset that balance. They're born, not made. They can't be predicted or controlled. To him that was chaos. Kale had gone very still, his face carved from stone as he stared at his father's journal. Silver could practically feel the rage rolling off him in waves. Did my mother know? Kale asked quietly. Later, after Luna Catherine died. Did she know what he was doing? Thomas and Mara exchanged glances. She suspected, Thomas said carefully. But she was afraid to confront him. Your father? He wasn't always a kind man, Kale. Especially in his final years. Kale's hand slammed down on the table, making everyone jump. He was a coward. He was supposed to protect every member of this pack, and instead he tortured a child for 18 years because he was afraid of losing power. He thought he was doing what was necessary, Mara began. Don't defend him, Kale snarled. Not to me. Not after what he did. He turned to Silver, and the anguish in his eyes was raw. I'm sorry. God, Silver, I'm so sorry. I upheld his legacy. Carried on his traditions. I watched you suffer and did nothing because I trusted that he'd built something worth preserving. You didn't know, Silver said again, but the words felt hollow now. I should have, Kale insisted. He moved closer, his hand finding Silver's arm. The touch grounded them both. I should have questioned everything. Should have looked at you, really looked, and seen that something was wrong. You were grieving, Silver said softly. You just lost both your parents. You were trying to hold a pack together while processing your own pain. I don't blame you, Kale. You should. But I don't. The connection between them pulsed, warm and insistent. Silver was becoming more certain by the hour that it wasn't just attraction, it was something deeper. A bond forming whether they wanted it or not. The visiting alphas will know this history, Mara warned, breaking the moment. Guardian bloodlines are documented in every pack's archives. They'll know that Silver's power was artificially suppressed, that he didn't choose to awaken it. They'll argue he's unstable, dangerous, unable to control himself. Can you? One of the younger warriors looked at Silver with open curiosity rather than fear. Control it, I mean? Silver hesitated. Honestly, he had no idea. The power inside him felt vast and wild, barely contained even now. It had awakened in a moment of desperate fury, and he hadn't shifted since. What if he couldn't do it again? Or worse, what if he shifted and couldn't shift back? I don't know, he admitted. Murmurs rippled through the council. Then we have a problem, Mara said. Because the alphas will demand proof that you're not a threat. They'll want to see you shift, want to witness your control. And if you can't demonstrate that. She didn't finish, but she didn't need to. If Silver couldn't prove he was in control of his power, the visiting alphas would have justification for demanding his imprisonment or death. Not out of cruelty but out of fear for their own packs. And Kale, despite his determination to protect Silver, might not be able to stop them. Then I'll learn, Silver said with more confidence than he felt. I have until dawn. That gives me. He glanced at the window, gauging the darkness. Maybe 8 hours. That's not enough time, Thomas protested. It takes years for wolves to master their shifts and you're not even a normal wolf. Then I'd better get started. Kale's hand tightened on his arm. You're still recovering. You've barely been conscious for 6 hours after 2 days of exhaustion. Your body can't take. My body doesn't have a choice. Silver met Kale's eyes steadily. Neither do we. This is the only way, Kale. You know it is. For a long moment, the alpha looked like he might argue. Then his shoulders sagged slightly in defeat. Fine, Kale said. But I'm staying with you. If you're going to push yourself to the edge, at least let me catch you when you fall. The tenderness in his voice made Silver's chest ache. The rest of you are dismissed, Kale announced to the council. Prepare the warriors just in case. And send word to the visiting alphas that we'll meet at dawn as requested. As the council members filed out, Mara paused beside Silver. Your mother would be proud, she said quietly. Of your strength. Your mercy. Even after everything we did to you, you still want to protect this pack. Silver didn't know what to say to that, so he simply nodded. When they were finally alone, Kale pulled Silver into his arms without warning. The embrace was desperate, protective, as if Kale could shield him from the entire world through sheer force of will. We'll figure this out, Kale murmured against Silver's hair. Whatever it takes. You're not facing this alone. Silver let himself sink into the warmth for just a moment, drawing strength from Kale's solid presence. Then he pulled back, meeting those amber eyes with determination. Let's go, he said. I have a monster to tame. Outside, the campfires of 8 packs burned like judgment in the darkness. And somewhere deep inside Silver, the guardian beast stirred, eager to be unleashed once more. Chapter 5, The Shift in Power. The training grounds were empty at midnight, lit only by the moon hanging heavy and full above them. Silver stood in the center of the clearing, trying to ignore the way his hands trembled. Kale watched from a few feet away, arms crossed, his face illuminated by moonlight. Tell me what it felt like, Kale said quietly. When you shifted the first time. Silver closed his eyes, searching for the memory. It was rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. I saw you about to die and something inside me just snapped. All the barriers that had held the power back for 18 years shattered at once. So anger is your trigger. Maybe. Or fear. Or desperation. Silver opened his eyes, frustration bleeding into his voice. I don't know, Kale. It's not like I came with an instruction manual. Try calling to it, Kale suggested. The way you would with a normal shift. Reach for your wolf. I don't have a wolf. I have a... Silver gestured helplessly. A monster. A guardian, Kale corrected firmly. There's a difference. Silver took a breath and reached inward, searching for that vast presence he'd felt before. It was there, he could sense it, something ancient and powerful coiled in his chest like a sleeping dragon. But it wouldn't respond. He pushed harder, trying to grasp it, to pull it forward the way other wolves described calling their shifts. The power stirred slightly, then slipped away like smoke through his fingers. It's not working, Silver said through gritted teeth. Then stop forcing it. Kale moved closer, his voice gentle. You spent 18 years having your power suppressed, locked away. Maybe it doesn't respond to force because force is what kept it caged. Silver looked at him, surprised by the insight. Try asking, Kale continued. Instead of demanding. Invite it out rather than dragging it. It sounded ridiculous. But then again, everything about the past 3 days had been impossible. Silver closed his eyes again and softened his approach. Instead of reaching for the power, he simply opened himself to it. Welcomed it. Please, he thought. I need your help. We need your help. The presence stirred, more responsive this time. Silver felt it unfurl slightly, testing the boundaries of his consciousness. Then it retreated again. Damn it. Silver's eyes snapped open. It's like it doesn't trust me. Can you blame it? Kale's expression was wry. You're asking it to come out and perform for an audience of hostile alphas who want to either control or kill you. That's not exactly an appealing offer. Silver huffed a laugh despite everything. So what do I do? Build trust. Show it, show yourself, that you're not trying to cage it again. That you're partners, not enemies. In 8 hours. In 8 hours, Kale agreed grimly. They worked through the night, trying different approaches. Meditation. Emotional triggers. Physical exertion. Nothing worked for more than a fleeting moment. Silver would feel the power start to rise, then it would slip away before he could fully grasp it. By the time false dawn began lightening the sky, Silver was exhausted and frustrated, his clothes soaked with sweat. It's not going to happen, he said, slumping to the ground. I can't do it, Kale. I can't control something I don't understand. Kale sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. Then we don't go to the meeting. They'll attack. Let them. We'll fight. Silver turned to look at him, seeing the determined set of Kale's jaw. Your pack will die. Good wolves. Innocent people. All because I can't perform a party trick on command. You're not a party trick, Kale said fiercely. And I meant what I said, Silver. You're under my protection. I don't care how many alphas are out there, they're not taking you. The conviction in his voice made Silver's chest tight. Over the past 3 days, something had fundamentally shifted between them. The cold distance was gone, replaced by something intense and complicated. Why? Silver asked quietly. Why do you care so much? 3 days ago, you were ready to let them exile me. Kale was silent for a long moment, his amber eyes fixed on the lightening horizon. Because I was wrong, he finally said. About you. About what strength looks like. My father taught me that weakness was something to be eliminated, that showing mercy or compassion was a liability for an alpha. He turned to face Silver fully. But you saved my life. Saved the entire pack. Not because you wanted power or recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. That strength, Silver. Real strength. And I've been drawn to it, drawn to you, since the moment you shifted. Silver's breath caught. Drawn to me? Kale's hand came up, cupping Silver's jaw with a gentleness that seemed at odds with his alpha nature. The bond between us isn't just political. It's not just about you being a guardian and me being alpha. I feel it here. He placed Silver's hand over his heart. Like you're mine to protect. Mine too. He stopped, but Silver could feel Kale's heartbeat racing beneath his palm. Yours to what? Silver whispered. Claim, Kale breathed. If you'd let me. The world seemed to narrow to just the two of them, the space between their bodies charged with possibility. Silver had harbored feelings for Kale for years, had watched him from afar with hopeless longing. But this was different. This was mutual. Real. Kale leaned in slowly, giving Silver every chance to pull away. When Silver didn't move, their lips met in a kiss that was gentle at first, almost tentative. Then the connection between them flared to life. Silver gasped against Kale's mouth as power surged through him. Not the Guardian's power, but something else. Something that felt like recognition, like two pieces of a puzzle finally sliding into place. The bond. A true mate bond. Kale must have felt it too, because he made a low sound in his throat and deepened the kiss, one hand sliding into Silver's hair while the other pulled him closer. Silver had never been kissed before, had never been touched with desire rather than pity or disgust. The sensation was overwhelming, Kale's taste, his scent, the solid warmth of his body. And beneath it all, that power inside Silver began to wake. Not with rage this time. With purpose. Silver broke the kiss, breathing hard. Kale? I feel it too, Kale said, his eyes wide. The bond? You're my mate, Silver. You've always been my mate. That's why your father wanted me gone, Silver realized with sudden clarity. Not just because I was a guardian. Because he knew, or suspected, that we were destined for each other. An alpha mated to a guardian would shift the power dynamic completely. He was afraid of sharing power, Kale said bitterly. Afraid that I'd choose you over pack traditions. He was probably right. There, Silver said, stepping forward. We just didn't recognize it until now. But that doesn't change what I am. What I can do. Then prove it, the sharp-featured alpha challenged. Shift for us. Show us you have control. Silver's stomach dropped. This was it. The moment of truth. He could feel hundreds of eyes on him, waiting, judging. He closed his eyes and reached for the Guardian's power one more time. Please, he begged silently. If you ever trusted anyone, trust me now. Trust us. The power stirred. And this time, with Kale's hand still clasped in his own and the mate bond singing between them, it finally answered. Chapter 6, Choosing Each Other. Power exploded through Silver's veins like liquid starlight. This time, the transformation didn't feel like violence. It felt like coming home. His bones shifted and reformed with purpose rather than pain. His skin rippled as silver-black fur emerged, shimmering in the early morning light. The world expanded around him as his body grew, muscles coiling with ancient strength. Within seconds, he stood in his guardian form, massive, horned, eyes burning with inner fire. But this time he was aware, present, in control. The gathered wolves took an instinctive step back, even the alphas. Silver could smell their fear, hear their hearts racing. But he also felt something else through the mate bond, Kale's absolute trust, steady as bedrock. Silver turned his great head toward the alphas, meeting each of their gazes in turn. He could speak in this form, he realized. The words came from somewhere deep and ancient, resonating through the clearing. You wanted proof, his voice rumbled, making the ground vibrate. Here I stand, conscious, controlled. No threat to anyone unless they threaten my pack. Alpha Thorn's expression remained skeptical. Shift back was a test. Everyone knew the hardest part of any shift was the return. Letting go of the power, choosing vulnerability again. Silver closed his eyes and reached inward, not fighting the guardian but asking it gently to recede. The power resisted for a moment, reluctant to be contained after tasting freedom. We're partners, Silver reminded it. I'll let you out again. I promise. But right now, I need to be human. Slowly, the guardian acquiesced. The transformation reversed, leaving Silver standing naked and shivering in the morning air. Someone, thin, quickly draped a cloak around his shoulders. Satisfied? Kale asked coldly, moving to stand beside Silver. Impressive, Thorn admitted. But control in a calm moment isn't the same as control under pressure. What happens when he's threatened? When his mate is in danger? Will that pretty control hold, or will the beast take over? There's only one way to find out, the sharp-featured alpha said with a cruel smile. Test it. Before anyone could react, he shifted and lunged, not at Silver but at Kale. The attack was so sudden, so unexpected, that Kale barely had time to brace himself. The alpha's wolf form crashed into him, jaws snapping toward his throat. Rage exploded through Silver, white-hot and absolute. The Guardian surged forward, demanding release, demanding blood, demanding retribution for the threat to their mate. No. Silver caught the power before it could take over completely. He shifted again, but this time he maintained control even through the fury. He crossed the distance in a single bound, grabbing the attacking alpha by the scruff and hurling him away from Kale. The alpha hit the ground hard, rolling several times before coming to a stop. Silver stood over Kale protectively, but he didn't pursue. Didn't attack. Didn't kill, though every instinct screamed at him to defend his mate with lethal force. Enough, he growled, his voice still resonant with guardian power. I've proven what you asked. I can control myself even when provoked. Even when my mate is threatened. The sharp-featured alpha shifted back to human form, nursing a likely broken rib. But he was grinning. So you can. Interesting. That was a hell of a risk, Marcus, Thorn said dryly, though she looked impressed. Worth it, Marcus wheezed. We needed to know if the Guardian could hold back when it mattered. Looks like he can. Silver shifted back again, though this time it was harder. The Guardian didn't want to release its protective stance over Kale. He had to practically wrestle the power into submission. When he was finally human again, he swayed slightly. Kale caught him immediately, supporting him. 3 shifts in 5 minutes, Kale murmured, concern evident in his voice. You're pushing too hard. Had to, Silver breathed. Had to show them. Alpha Thorn stepped forward, her expression thoughtful now rather than hostile. I'll admit you've exceeded my expectations, Guardian. Most wolves can barely manage one controlled shift. You've demonstrated remarkable restraint. Then you'll leave him alone? Kale demanded. I didn't say that. Thorn's gaze shifted between them. A Guardian mated to an Alpha creates a dangerous concentration of power. Your pack is already the strongest in this region, Kale. Add a Guardian to that, and you could easily dominate all neighboring territories. We don't want to dominate anyone, Silver said tiredly. We just want to be left in peace. Perhaps you don't, another Alpha spoke up, an older man with kind eyes. But power corrupts. Even the best intentions can twist over time. How do we know that in 5 years, 10 years, you won't decide that your pack deserves more territory? More resources? You don't, Kale said bluntly. Just like I don't know that you won't attack us out of fear or try to take Silver by force when you think we're weak. Trust goes both ways. Which is why we're proposing a solution, Thorn said. Not imprisonment but oversight. The Guardian and his Alpha join the regional council. They submit to regular check-ins, allow neutral observers during pack business. In exchange, we leave your pack in peace and provide military support if you're attacked again. Silver and Kale exchanged glances. That's surprisingly reasonable, Kale said cautiously. I'm not unreasonable, just careful, Thorn replied. The truth is, having a Guardian in our region could be an asset. The rogue problem has been escalating for months. Your pack faced just one warband, there are others out there growing bolder. A Guardian could help us deal with threats that would normally require multiple packs working together. You want to use him as a weapon, Kale said flatly. I want to use him as what he is, a protector. But only if he's willing and only if we can trust he won't turn that protection against us. Silver felt the eyes of 8 Alphas on him, waiting for his decision. The Guardian stirred inside him, less restless now that it understood they weren't in immediate danger. I have conditions, Silver said. Thorn raised an eyebrow. Bold, for someone who was nearly exiled a week ago. I was nearly exiled because the previous Alpha suppressed my power and labeled me defective, Silver shot back. I'm done letting other people make decisions about my life. So here are my terms. I'll join your council. I'll help protect the region when needed. But I won't be anyone's weapon. I choose which battles to fight and I answer to my own conscience, not to political pressure. And if we need you and you refuse? Marcus challenged. Then you'll have to manage without me, Silver said simply. I'm not a tool you can command. I'm a person. Treat me like one or we have no deal. Silence fell as the Alphas considered this. Finally, Thorn smiled, a genuine expression that softened her severe features. I like you, Guardian. You've got spine. All right, we accept your terms with one addition. If you or your Alpha abuse your power, and I mean genuine abuse, not political maneuvering, the regional council has the right to intervene. Define intervene, Kale said warily. Economic sanctions first. Then military pressure if necessary. We won't stand by and watch a tyrant rise, even one who started with good intentions. It was fair, Silver had to admit. Harsh but fair. Agreed, he said before Kale could object. He felt the Alpha's surprise through their bond but also his reluctant acceptance. Then we have an accord. Thorn extended her hand, first to Silver, then to Kale. Welcome to the Regional Council, Guardian. Alpha Kale. The other Alphas murmured their agreement, though some looked more reluctant than others. Marcus still seemed amused by the whole situation, nursing his broken rib with a grin. As the visiting packs began to disperse, setting up more permanent camps rather than battle formations, Silver felt the tension drain from his body. His legs nearly gave out, exhaustion crashing over him like a wave. Kale caught him smoothly, lifting him into his arms despite Silver's weak protest. I can walk. You just shifted 4 times in under an hour after being awake all night, Kale said firmly. You're not walking anywhere. He carried Silver back toward the pack house, ignoring the stares and whispers from pack members. Let them look. Let them see their Alpha caring for his mate openly without shame. Elder Mara intercepted them at the entrance, her expression unreadable. That was quite a display. Did we pass? Silver asked tiredly. Something like approval flickered in her ancient eyes. You did more than pass, Guardian. You showed strength and restraint in equal measure. Your mother would be proud. The words hit Silver harder than expected. His eyes burned with sudden tears he refused to shed. Thank you, he whispered. Mara nodded once, then stepped aside to let them pass. Kale carried Silver all the way to the Alpha's chambers. His chambers now, Silver supposed, since they were bonded. The thought made something warm unfurl in his chest. Kale laid him gently on the bed, then sat beside him, one hand stroking Silver's hair. You were incredible out there, Kale said softly. The way you held back when Marcus attacked me. I felt the rage through our bond, Silver. I know how badly you wanted to tear him apart. But you didn't. Couldn't let the Guardian control me, Silver mumbled, already half asleep. Had to prove, had to show them. You did. You showed everyone exactly what you're capable of. Kale leaned down, pressing a kiss to Silver's forehead. Rest now. You've earned it. But Silver caught his wrist before he could pull away. Stay. I'm not going anywhere, Kale promised. He stretched out beside Silver, pulling him close. The mate bond settled between them, warm and secure, no longer something to fear but something to cherish. Kale? Silver murmured against his chest. What happens now? With us? Kale was quiet for a moment, his hand tracing idle patterns on Silver's back. Now we rebuild. Together. No more secrets, no more suppression. We show the pack what it looks like when an Alpha and a Guardian choose each other. Choose each other, Silver repeated, liking the sound of it. Not ownership. Not control. Just choice. Just choice, Kale agreed. You're not mine to command, Silver. You're mine to cherish. There's a difference. Silver's eyes drifted closed, exhaustion finally claiming him. But he felt safe here, wrapped in Kale's arms, the mate bond thrumming steadily between them. For the first time in his life, he wasn't broken or defective or shameful. He was exactly what he was meant to be. 3 months later, Silver stood at the edge of the training grounds, watching young wolves practice their shifts. Beside him, Kale reviewed reports from the regional council, occasionally looking up to smile at his mate. The pack had changed in the months since Silver's awakening. Omegas were no longer relegated to support roles. They trained alongside warriors if they chose, their strengths recognized and valued. The rigid hierarchy had softened, becoming more about cooperation than dominance. And Silver had found his place. Not as Alpha. Not as subordinate. As Guardian. As protector. As Kale's equal and partner. The Northern Pack is requesting your assistance, Kale said, scanning a letter. Rogue activity near their border. Thorn says it's nothing urgent, but they'd appreciate a show of force. I'll go next week, Silver decided. After the full moon ceremony. Tonight was special, the pack's first ceremony since Silver's transformation. This time, when they gathered under the moon, it wouldn't be to witness his failure. It would be to celebrate his success. Their success. Ready? Kale asked as the sun began to set. Silver took his hand, threading their fingers together. Through their bond, he felt Kale's love, his pride, his absolute certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Ready? Silver said. They walked together to the ceremony grounds, where the pack had already begun to gather. This time, when Silver stepped into the sacred circle, there were no whispers of shame or pity. There was only respect. He shifted smoothly, the Guardian form coming easily now after months of practice. The pack bowed, not in submission but in acknowledgement. In gratitude for the protector who'd saved them and chosen to stay. Kale shifted beside him, his midnight black wolf pressing against the Guardian's flank. Two halves of a whole. Alpha and Guardian. Mates. Together, they tilted their heads back and howled at the full moon. And the pack howled with them, not for dominance or hierarchy but for unity. For family. For love. The defective Omega was gone, unmourned and unremembered. In his place stood the Guardian, powerful, controlled and finally free.